In the Church of Satan we were part of different groups who varied in some practices. The doctrine was sometimes confusing because of disagreements in interpretation from group to group. For instance, David often said he followed the spirit of the law, whereas he said Grandpa Anderson followed the letter of the law. Grandpa's group was traditional and, from what we were told, very much looked down on members with no pedigree or bloodline. They were also, generally, more specific and exact about the ceremonies, whereas my father sometimes added or changed them according to his current revelation. At times, this really angered my grandfather, who often criticized David as being narcissistic. Despite the disagreements, however, all the groups still, generally, followed the high councils, or at least had a common desire for secrecy and protection for satanic worship. Rosie emphasized that we needed to be thin, because they said in the church, CS, it was important for young girls to be beautiful and attractive. My mom was very critical of any fat we had on our bodies and put us on diets and cleanses, which many times just consisted of withholding food. The opposite game mentioned earlier is used because it reinforces doctrinal concepts in young children. What church, CS, members call love, the rest of the world, or at least the law, would call the opposite. Love was sexually satisfying redacted, for example, and hate was going against the church, CS. They would never even think of what they did to us as abuse. They said they could never be caught abusing us because they were doing the right thing and what was good and best for us. To them, they were glorifying their God, Lucifer, and raising up righteous seed to him. Church members, CS, fully believe, at least we were taught this, that killing a person outside of the group, and especially one, or the child of one, who has gone against the group in any way, is righteous and furthering the Lord's, Lucifer's, work on the earth. Murder is not murder in their minds. If anyone committed murder, it was us, they said. They said this was so because our hearts were not fully loyal to Lucifer yet. They also do not believe they or Lucifer is evil. That is just a designation, we were taught, by God and Jehovah to justify what they did to him. We were taught our families were of a royal birthright and among Lucifer's elect and elite in the premortal world. Grandpa and Grandma Anderson especially stressed this about their superior generational lines. They would show us stapled pages of genealogy that had been marked for CS ordinances and other significations. They said they had their own system of red and black dots that they would put next to their names. Our charge was to bring as many souls to Satan as we possibly could. This was done through the living and the dead. Our grandmother Karma spoke often about her father, Garrett DeJong, Jr., who had learned about many languages and was, they said, helping us proselytize in the spirit world and bring more spirits to Satan. Grandpa also worshipped Oliver Cowdery as having been an elect member of the church, CS, in his day. They also spoke about some prophecy they hoped to see fulfilled about Joseph Smith's descendants joining. We were often told by Dad, Mom, and others of the countless gatekeepers the church, CS, had positioned in the world and especially in Utah. This was often part of the threats they gave us. They said these loyal, to Satan, male and female gatekeepers were in high and low places and professions where they could easily intercept, intervene, and control threats to the church, CS, such as professors, attorneys, judges, doctors, psychologists, and more. We were taught CS doctrine by family and other church, CS, members. We were told the church's goal is to raise and restore to Lucifer to his rightful heritage, to be successor to the throne of God and to become even more powerful than our Heavenly Father. The paterfamilias is the term for the father/husband/eldest male, if there is no present parent, of the household in the church CS. Traditionally, the will/desire of the father is law. Women and children are his direct possession or chattel and ultimately treated as such. Children are often used as collateral for getting ahead. David and Richard each had the role of paterfamilias. Dad was not quite as strictly traditional as his elders. Mom often bragged about how good she was at manipulating Dad into doing what she wanted. She said he had never done anything impressive on his own, she had always been behind the scenes, pulling the strings. He told us, however, that he was intellectually superior and often called her a manipulative bitch. As mentioned, She loved the women's retreats she would go to with her CS friends, and she told us they often talked about how women were being repressed. Dad would tease Mom about going because Mom reported that they had a lot of lesbian sexual encounters there. Whenever the paterfamilias gave you money, favors, or gifts, it would be your obligation to accept it, and whatever they later collected as payback for it with gratitude and humility, at their discretion, rape, etc. As a child, especially a female child, and more so as the peacemaker in your family, it was your duty to constantly, publicly and within your home, express adoration and affection for your father. Peacemakers must set a good example. In the Church of Satan, obedience to elders is supreme. They use the council system more than the legal system. Satan's laws are enforced by each group's council, with high councils at the top with the other higher leaders, such as Master Mahan. Some of the other council titles are the Peacemaker, Enforcer of the Peace, basically silences everyone, the Deaf One, deaf to Jesus Christ, the Deceiver, above public suspicion, the Conspirator, the Witness, the Record Keeper, and the Punisher. In everyday conversation, council members were often called elders. Women are not allowed on these councils. Sometimes a member will fall from grace and lose whatever standing/position they have in the church, CS. They are brought before one of the councils, depending on the severity, and at the very least, this event brings immense shame on the person and their family, or, at its most severe, torture, mutilation, and death. The peacemaker, this is the person who maintains peace. There is a head peacemaker in each branch or group of this church, but there is also a head peacemaker for the church. They are to represent the group by stopping them from doing things that could hurt the group and keep people quiet when there are problems. There is also a peacemaker in each family. Although this person is usually the first child, it is not necessary. If the first child is not strong enough to control other children in the family, then sometimes they will add a second peacemaker, or give the responsibility to some other child entirely. The Punisher, this person is the one who punishes others in their jurisdiction or stewardship. An example of punishers include Gordon Bowen and Joe Binion. Gordon Bowen is important as he is not only on some council, but he is the punisher for the whole church. They both learn tactics to really hurt people and sometimes even kill them as punishment. The Witness, this person records things and makes sure they can testify of anything they need to the council or outside of the group if needed. The Terror, David often called this Megarmisabig or something similar to that. From what Redacted told me, I think they are the people that try to get victims to go insane. The Conspirator, Rosie and David often called David Leavitt the Conspirator. From what they said, people in this role are assigned to attack anyone who may be a threat to the group by starting rumors, planting false information and evidence that would take down anyone who is against the groups. They send people to bug houses, send threats, watch, listen, and gather information.
More than 2 years before that press conference, Leavitt sat down for a different interview and was asked if he thought ritualistic sex abuse was real. He went on to describe Hamblin and his own accuser, calling her a victim.
Do I think that occurs? Yeah, I think it occurs. I know some victims of it. Yeah, I know some victims of it. I was not in a position to prosecute it. Who was into Native American stuff, he'd kill deer and get deer hearts and drink their blood and drink the deer's blood. If a man wants to program some little girl to give immoral sex anytime he wants to, you start young and give rewards. How do you train a dog to roll over when it's time to roll over? You do it by giving a reward and repetition.